Have you ever noticed something remarkable about certain older people? They seem perfectly content being alone. Not lonely, but genuinely comfortable in their own company. While others might view their solitude with concern or even pity, these individuals radiate a quiet peace that's hard to ignore. They appear to draw strength from within themselves, finding joy in silence and contentment in moments of stillness that would make others uncomfortable. What many people fail to recognize is that these seniors who prefer solitude often possess a profound kind of wisdom that society tends to overlook. They've discovered something that eludes most people their entire lives. They've learned to genuinely enjoy their own company, to find deep peace in silence, and to draw energy from within rather than constantly seeking it from external sources. This isn't about being antisocial or disconnected from the world. It's about understanding yourself at such a fundamental level that you no longer need constant external stimulation to feel whole. As we journey through life and grow older, something interesting happens. Life begins to naturally strip away many of the distractions that once filled our days. The demanding career eventually ends in retirement. Social obligations that once seemed so pressing gradually fade. The endless noise and busyness that characterized our younger years slowly quiets down. And what remains, when all those layers are peeled away, is a clearer, more honest reflection of who we truly are at our core. For many wise seniors, this period of increased solitude isn't something to fear or avoid. It's not about isolation or withdrawal from the world. Instead, it's about deep understanding and self-knowledge. They've come to see that being alone isn't a punishment to be endured or a problem to be solved. Rather, it's a privilege, a gift that allows them the space and quiet they need to connect with their authentic selves. It's during these solitary moments that the mind becomes truly calm, the heart becomes steady and centered, and the spirit has the opportunity to reconnect with what genuinely matters in life. Today, we're going to explore 6 powerful reasons why seniors who genuinely enjoy being alone are often among the wisest people you'll ever encounter. Whether you're someone who already treasures your own company, or perhaps you've been afraid of solitude and what it might mean, this discussion will help you see being alone in a completely new and empowering light. These insights apply not just to seniors, but to anyone seeking a deeper understanding of themselves and a more peaceful existence. So let's begin with the first reason. Seniors who prefer solitude have reached a stage in their lives where they truly understand the value of peace. And I'm not talking about just the absence of conflict or the quiet when noise stops. I'm referring to a deep internal peace that others spend their entire lives searching for without ever quite finding it. These individuals have learned through decades of living that not every silence needs to be filled with conversation or activity, and not every moment needs to be shared with someone else to have meaning or value. Think about it. After spending decades working demanding jobs, raising families with all the chaos that entails, managing endless responsibilities, and meeting constant obligations, many seniors finally reach a point where they truly comprehend how precious genuine peace is. It's not that they didn't value peace when they were younger, but the reality is that most of us don't fully appreciate it until we've experienced its opposite for long enough. Let me share a story that illustrates this beautifully. There was a man in his 70s named George. Throughout most of his life, George was constantly surrounded by people. His workplace was busy and social, he maintained numerous friendships, and he had a large extended family that frequently gathered. But something shifted as he aged. He started noticing that he genuinely appreciated quiet mornings on his porch with nothing more than a cup of coffee and his own thoughts. No television, no phone calls, no obligations pulling at him. George once shared something profound with me. He said, "Peace isn't the absence of people. It's the presence of calm." Those simple words capture the entire wisdom of solitude in one sentence. When seniors like George choose to be alone, they're not running away from the world or rejecting human connection. They're doing something much more important. They're reconnecting with themselves in a way that's only possible in solitude. In these quiet moments, something remarkable happens. The mind becomes clearer, no longer clouded by the constant input and demands of social interaction. The heart becomes less reactive, not immediately jumping to emotional responses triggered by others. The body itself becomes more relaxed, releasing tension that builds up during social engagement. This peace creates space for them to reflect deeply on what truly matters in life, rather than being constantly pulled in different directions by external demands and expectations. Many older people will tell you that as they aged, something unexpected happened. The need to impress others simply faded away. The desire for approval and validation that drove so much of their behavior in younger years lost its grip. They stopped seeking excitement and fulfillment from outside sources and began discovering joy in stillness itself. In that silence, they rediscovered something that modern life often drowns out completely: the ability to listen to their own thoughts without judgment, criticism, or the need to immediately act on them. What's fascinating is that science actually supports this wisdom. Research studies have shown that time spent alone helps regulate emotions more effectively. It reduces stress hormones like cortisol that damage our bodies when chronically elevated. Solitude has been shown to improve brain function in several measurable ways. The brain, much like our physical body, needs periods of rest and recovery. It can't operate at peak performance when constantly stimulated. Solitude provides that essential rest. For seniors who embrace quiet time alone, this translates into practical benefits. They think more deeply about important matters rather than making reactive decisions. They remember things more clearly because their minds aren't cluttered with constant new input. They respond to challenges with greater calm and wisdom, drawing on their life experience without being overwhelmed by immediate emotional reactions. Here's what's so beautiful about people who genuinely appreciate solitude: they don't feel empty when they're alone. That's the key difference. Where others might feel a void or anxiety in the absence of company, these wise individuals feel full. Their minds aren't racing with worry about what others are thinking of them. Their hearts aren't drained from the constant demands of social interaction and maintaining relationships. Instead, they experience balance, patience, and a sense of perspective that allows them to see their lives and the world around them clearly. This is the first unmistakable sign of a truly wise person. They understand at a deep level that peace isn't found in the noise and chaos of the crowd, but in the quiet sanctuary of their own soul. They've learned that while external validation and social connection have their place, the foundation of peace must be built within. Now let's move to the second reason why solitary seniors possess such profound wisdom. They have mastered what psychologists call emotional independence, and this is one of the most difficult achievements in human development. As people grow older and accumulate more life experience, many come to realize something that younger people often struggle to accept. Relying on others for your happiness is like trying to chase the wind. No matter how fast you run or how hard you try, it always slips through your fingers. You can never quite catch it and hold it securely. Those who embrace solitude in their later years understand something that most people never fully learn. True, lasting peace comes from emotional independence, from being complete within yourself. Think about what this means practically. Emotionally independent seniors no longer depend on external validation to feel worthy. They don't need constant attention to feel important. They don't require approval from others to make decisions or feel good about their choices. They've reached a state of internal completeness that makes them fundamentally resilient. For most of their lives, these people played many demanding roles. They were parents, which required immense energy, patience, and self-sacrifice. They were spouses, which involved constant compromise and consideration of another person's needs. They were friends, workers, community members, each role requiring them to give parts of themselves and meet expectations. All of this involved tremendous energy, countless compromises, and ongoing self-sacrifice. But here's what happens with age and wisdom. People who embrace solitude discover something liberating. They realize they don't need to constantly please everyone around them. They no longer fear being forgotten or becoming irrelevant. They've lived long enough to understand a crucial truth. Relationships that are based primarily on obligation, guilt, or social expectation drain far more energy than they give back. Meanwhile, time spent in one's own company, when approached with the right mindset, actually replenishes and restores the soul. Let me tell you about Linda, a woman in her late 70s who expressed this beautifully. She once said something that stayed with me. When I stopped expecting people to understand me, I finally felt free. Take a moment to really consider that statement. It captures the quiet confidence and inner strength that emotionally independent people carry through life. When you reach this state of emotional independence, several things happen. You stop taking things personally. Someone's criticism or judgment no longer has the power to devastate you because you're not looking to them for your sense of worth. You forgive faster because you understand that holding grudges only poisons your own peace. You no longer waste precious time and energy explaining yourself, defending your choices, or trying to make people see things from your perspective. These emotionally independent seniors have learned through hard experience that everyone sees life through their own unique lens, shaped by their own experiences, biases, and limitations. True peace comes from accepting that truth rather than fighting against it. You can't control how others perceive you, and trying to do so is exhausting and ultimately futile. What makes emotionally independent seniors so impressive is their steadiness during life's inevitable storms. When others disappoint them, which happens to everyone, they don't crumble or fall apart. When plans change or circumstances shift unexpectedly, they don't panic or become overwhelmed. Instead, they adapt with grace and flexibility. They can enjoy company and social interaction when it's available, but they no longer need it to feel complete or whole. Their contentment comes from within, from a deep understanding of themselves and a clear sense of what truly matters in life. This kind of emotional maturity and independence cannot be rushed or forced. It's not something you can learn from a book or develop through willpower alone. It's the natural product of years of experience, of heartbreaks that taught you resilience, of triumphs that showed you your strength, of losses that revealed what's truly important, and of countless lessons learned through living fully. Seniors who love solitude haven't turned away from people out of bitterness or disappointment, though they may have experienced plenty of both. They simply choose to protect their hard-won inner calm. They understand that peace of mind is a genuine form of wealth, perhaps the most valuable kind. And once you've achieved it, you guard it carefully. You become selective about what and who you allow to disturb it. This brings us to the third reason these solitary seniors are so wise. They see relationships with remarkable clarity. One of the greatest advantages that solitude provides, especially in old age, is the clarity it brings about people and relationships. Seniors who enjoy being alone no longer see their relationships through the distorting fog of neediness, guilt, or social expectation. They're no longer trying to maintain friendships out of obligation or fear of what others might think. Instead, they see relationships for exactly what they truly are, connections that either nourish the soul or drain it. Throughout most of our lives, many of us surround ourselves with people for reasons that have little to do with genuine connection. We maintain friendships out of habit because we've known someone for years. We stay in touch with people because we're afraid of being lonely. We keep up relationships out of a sense of duty or obligation, feeling guilty if we don't. But those who have matured into comfortable solitude understand something crucial. Not every relationship deserves a permanent seat at the table of your life. These wise individuals have learned to cherish a few meaningful, authentic connections rather than exhausting themselves trying to maintain a crowd of shallow, surface-level ones. They understand that quality matters infinitely more than quantity when it comes to relationships. Robert, an 82-year-old retired teacher, once shared something that reveals this deep wisdom. He said, "When I stopped expecting people to act a certain way, I stopped being disappointed. Think about what that statement reveals. The older we get, the more clearly we see that people rarely change in fundamental ways, and we absolutely cannot control them no matter how much we might want to. What we can control is who we allow into our peace, who we give access to our time and energy." Solitary seniors tend to have much better boundaries than they did in their younger years. They don't chase after people who have chosen to walk away from their lives. They don't cling desperately to toxic relationships simply because of nostalgia or history. They understand deeply that letting go isn't cruelty or coldness. It's self-preservation. It's choosing your own well-being over the comfort of familiarity. These individuals no longer measure their worth by how many friends they have or how full their social calendar is. Instead, they measure their life by the quality of peace they maintain in their own hearts. That's a completely different metric, one that leads to very different choices. Research has found something interesting about people who enjoy solitude. They often develop higher emotional intelligence than those who constantly surround themselves with others. They become skilled at reading subtle social cues that others miss. They sense tension early, often before it becomes obvious. They remain calm in social situations that might fluster others. But this calmness doesn't come from arrogance or feeling superior. It comes from genuine understanding and perspective. These wise seniors no longer take things personally because they recognize that everyone around them is fighting battles that remain unseen. Everyone carries wounds, fears, and struggles that influence their behavior in ways others can't fully comprehend. This recognition breeds compassion rather than judgment. In their quiet moments of solitude, these individuals reflect not only on other people's behavior, but also on their own. This is crucial. They're willing to admit their own mistakes without beating themselves up. They can release grudges they've carried, recognizing that holding on to them only hurts themselves. They choose compassion over confrontation whenever possible. Solitude softens them emotionally, making them more understanding and less reactive. But paradoxically, it also strengthens them, making them less vulnerable to manipulation or the opinions of others. Here's something important to understand. People who enjoy being alone aren't rejecting human connection. They simply value honesty, peace, and reciprocity in their relationships. They no longer have the energy or the desire to entertain relationships that require them to pretend to be someone they're not. They've learned through experience that the right people will find them and appreciate them when they're being genuine, not when they're desperate for connection. That truth alone makes their preference for solitude a sign of profound wisdom rather than social failure. This completes our first segment. We've explored 3 of the 6 reasons why seniors who enjoy solitude are among the wisest people you'll encounter. They understand the true value of peace, they've mastered emotional independence, and they see relationships with remarkable clarity. In our next segment, we'll discover 3 more profound insights these wise individuals have gained through their comfortable relationship with solitude. Stay with me as we continue this journey. We discussed how reheating oils in spinach can create harmful compounds that damage your pancreas over time. Now we're going to explore 3 more foods that should never be reheated, especially for people over 70. Let's talk about the third food, rice. Rice is a staple in kitchens around the world. It's affordable, versatile, filling, and generally considered healthy. Billions of people eat rice every single day. But when it comes to leftovers and reheating, rice is also one of the most misunderstood and potentially dangerous foods you can consume. The danger with rice isn't immediately obvious. When you cook rice, it looks safe, smells normal, and tastes fine even days later. But there's something happening at a microscopic level that most people have no idea about. When rice is cooked, tiny bacterial spores from a bacterium called Bacillus cereus can survive the heat. Now these spores are incredibly resilient. The boiling water that cooks your rice doesn't kill them. They simply wait. And here's where the problem begins. If that cooked rice is left out at room temperature, those dormant spores activate and begin to multiply rapidly. As these bacteria multiply, they release toxins. And here's the critical part that many people don't understand. Reheating the rice later will not destroy these toxins. You can heat that rice until it's steaming hot, you can microwave it until it's burning your mouth, but those bacterial toxins remain stable and active. They survive the reheating process completely intact. For seniors, this presents a serious health risk. Your digestive system at 70 is not what it was at 30 or 40. You have lower levels of stomach acid, which is your body's first defense against harmful bacteria. Your liver function has naturally slowed down, making it harder for your body to process and eliminate toxins. This means that toxins from Bacillus cereus can affect you much more severely than they would affect a younger person. When you consume rice contaminated with these bacterial toxins, you might experience nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. These are acute symptoms that appear within hours. But there's also chronic damage happening that you can't feel immediately. The toxins trigger an inflammatory response in your digestive tract. Your immune system responds, sending inflammatory compounds throughout your body. And your pancreas? being part of your digestive system, gets caught in this inflammatory crossfire. Over time, this repeated inflammation can gradually weaken pancreatic tissue. It affects the organ's ability to produce insulin effectively, potentially contributing to insulin dysfunction. The chronic stress also creates an environment where cancerous changes become more likely. While we can't say that reheated rice directly causes cancer, we can say that it contributes to the kind of inflammatory environment where cancer is more likely to develop. What makes this situation particularly insidious is that most people can't detect any problem with the rice. It doesn't smell bad, it doesn't look moldy, it tastes completely normal. The invisible bacterial toxins give no warning signs. This is why older adults are especially vulnerable. They trust their senses, and their senses tell them the rice is fine. But microscopically, it's anything but fine. The bacteria Bacillus cereus produces toxins that cause what doctors call oxidative stress. This stress damages not just the cells lining your intestines, but also reaches your pancreas. Doctors often see patients with recurring stomach upset, chronic digestive discomfort, and unexplained fatigue who never realize their rice reheating habits might be contributing to their symptoms. So what's the solution? The guidelines are simple, but they must be followed strictly. First, cook rice fresh whenever possible. Only prepare the amount you plan to eat in one meal. If you do need to cook extra and store leftovers, refrigerate that rice within 1 hour of cooking. Don't let it sit on the counter to cool down slowly. Get it into the refrigerator quickly to prevent bacterial multiplication. When you're ready to reheat stored rice, make sure it reaches a high temperature throughout, not just on the surface. The rice should be piping hot all the way through. And here's a crucial rule: never reheat rice more than once. Every heating and cooling cycle gives bacteria more opportunities to grow. Also, never let cooked rice sit at room temperature overnight. Even if you plan to refrigerate it in the morning, the damage is already done. Bacteria multiply exponentially during those nighttime hours. Some seniors have found a safer approach is to freeze leftover rice in small individual portions. Freezing halts bacterial growth completely. When you want to eat it, you can thaw one portion and reheat it thoroughly, preferably in a pan on the stove rather than in the microwave. Stovetop reheating tends to be more even, while microwave reheating often creates hot spots and cold spots. Those cold spots can harbor surviving bacteria. Here's something else to consider. Bacterial spores from rice can spread in your kitchen. The counter where you set the pot, the spoon you used to stir, even your hands can transfer these spores from one batch of rice to another or to other foods. This cross-contamination means that sloppy handling practices can amplify the risk. Remember, your pancreas at 70 is already working harder than it did decades ago. Even small toxic burdens that your body might have shrugged off easily in your youth can now tip the balance toward inflammation and cellular damage. Your goal isn't to become paranoid about food. It's to develop a healthy respect for proper food handling and to understand that convenience sometimes comes with hidden costs. Treating rice as a fresh dish rather than a leftover convenience is a small but powerful act of self-care. Each time you choose fresh over reheated, you're reducing the workload on your pancreas and helping your body maintain the clean, balanced state it needs to stay healthy. Now let's discuss the fourth food, chicken. Chicken is probably one of the most common leftovers in American kitchens. It's lean, relatively inexpensive, and a good source of protein. Many people cook chicken in large batches specifically to have leftovers for the week. But chicken is also one of the riskiest foods to reheat, especially for seniors. The problem with reheating chicken involves both protein structure changes and bacterial survival. Let's start with the protein issue. When chicken is first cooked, heat denatures its proteins, which is a fancy way of saying the proteins unfold and reconfigure into a form that's stable and easy for your digestive system to break down. Your stomach and pancreas handle freshly cooked chicken quite efficiently. However, when you cool that chicken and then reheat it, those proteins undergo another structural change. They become denser, tougher, and significantly more difficult for your digestive system to break down. This forces your pancreas to work overtime, releasing more digestive enzymes just to process what should be a simple protein source. For a pancreas that's already more sensitive with age, this extra work represents real strain. But the protein issue is just part of the problem. There's also a serious bacterial concern with reheated chicken. Chicken can harbor bacteria like Salmonella and Campylobacter. When you cook chicken properly the first time, you kill these bacteria. But during the cooling and storage process, if the chicken isn't handled correctly, bacteria can begin to multiply again. They might come from the air, from surfaces in your kitchen, or from cross-contamination with other foods. When you reheat that chicken, especially in a microwave, you often create uneven heating. Some parts get very hot while other parts remain lukewarm. Those lukewarm areas can allow bacteria to survive. For a younger person with a robust immune system, this might cause mild food poisoning. Uncomfortable, but not life-threatening. For a senior, however, bacterial contamination from chicken can cause severe inflammation throughout the digestive system and place enormous strain on both the pancreas and liver. There's also a third concern with reheated chicken that has to do with advanced glycation end products, or AGEs for short. These compounds form when proteins are repeatedly exposed to heat. As chicken is cooked, cooled, and then reheated, the proteins begin to oxidize and glycate, forming these AGE compounds. AGEs are harmful because they circulate through your bloodstream and trigger oxidative stress in your cells. They essentially accelerate aging at a cellular level. Over time, accumulated AGEs contribute to tissue damage, chronic inflammation, and organ fatigue. Research has linked high levels of AGEs to increased risk of pancreatic dysfunction, cardiovascular disease, and several types of cancer. If you've ever reheated chicken and noticed it has a slightly rubbery texture or an off taste that's hard to describe, you're experiencing the effects of these protein changes. That texture and taste are signals that the chicken has been chemically altered. Your body now has to work much harder to digest and process it, which is exactly what an aging digestive system doesn't need. To keep chicken safe and minimize pancreatic stress, follow these guidelines. First, cook only the portion you plan to eat in one sitting. If you must prepare extra for meal prep, refrigerate the cooked chicken within 1 hour and store it properly in airtight containers. When you're ready to eat it later, reheat it thoroughly and evenly. Using a skillet or oven is better than a microwave because you get more consistent heating throughout the meat. Even better, consider repurposing leftover chicken in ways that don't require reheating. Slice it cold and add it to salads. Shred it and use it in cold chicken salad. Dice it and add it to cold grain bowls. There are many creative ways to use leftover chicken that don't involve heating it up again. Doctors particularly warn against reheating fried or grilled chicken. These cooking methods use oils and high heat, which means you're combining two problems. The protein changes we've discussed with chicken plus the oxidized oil issue we talked about in our first segment. When you reheat fried chicken, the oils oxidize further, releasing free radicals that add even more stress to your pancreas. Each individual reheated chicken meal might not cause immediate, noticeable harm, but over time, these small toxic exposures accumulate. Think of it like this. Your pancreas is like a hardworking employee. It can handle occasional overtime, but if you ask it to work extra hours every single day, eventually it's going to burn out. The pancreas can endure only so much silent strain before showing signs of damage, much like your heart. Choosing to eat freshly cooked chicken gives your body clean, easily digestible protein. It results in gentle digestion and less stress on your vital organs. But reheating chicken, especially multiple times, transforms what was once nourishing food into something your body has to actively defend itself against. Finally, let's discuss the fifth food, potatoes. Potatoes seem so wholesome and comforting. They're a staple food around the world, and most people would never suspect they could be dangerous when reheated. But once cooked and cooled, potatoes undergo changes at a molecular level that can create real health risks, especially when they're reheated. Here's what happens chemically. When you heat potatoes, their starches gelatinize, meaning they absorb water and become soft and digestible. When those cooked potatoes cool down, some of that starch converts into what's called resistant starch. Resistant starch is actually beneficial when eaten cold. It supports healthy gut bacteria and doesn't spike your blood sugar dramatically. However, when you reheat those cool potatoes, especially in a microwave, the resistant starch converts into simple sugars very rapidly. These simple sugars cause a quick spike in blood glucose. For older adults whose insulin sensitivity naturally decreases with age, these repeated blood sugar spikes are genuinely dangerous. They force your pancreas to work overtime producing insulin, which over months and years increases the risk of chronic inflammation and eventually contributes to the kind of cellular environment where cancer can develop. There's another serious concern with reheated potatoes: acrylamide formation. Acrylamide is a chemical compound that forms when starchy foods are cooked at high temperatures. This happens during the initial cooking, but the amount increases when potatoes are reheated, especially when reheating causes uneven temperatures and some parts get very hot while others remain cooler. Studies have shown that acrylamide has potential carcinogenic effects. It can cause DNA damage and has been linked specifically to increased cancer risk in the pancreas and other organs. Even consuming a few servings of reheated potatoes per week can contribute to cumulative cellular stress over time. The danger with potatoes isn't just about the chemistry of starches and sugars. There's also a bacterial concern. When cooked potatoes are left at room temperature for more than 2 hours, bacteria called Clostridium botulinum can begin to grow. These bacteria produce some of the most potent biological toxins known to science. Reheating doesn't always kill these bacterial spores, particularly if the food isn't heated evenly throughout. This creates a double threat: toxins from bacterial growth combined with harmful chemical compounds from the starch breakdown. For seniors with weakened stomach acid and slower digestive processes, these toxins can cause serious illness. If you enjoy potatoes, you don't need to eliminate them from your diet entirely. The key is in how you handle them. Always refrigerate cooked potatoes within 1 hour of cooking. Don't let them sit on the counter to cool. When you reheat them, ensure they're heated thoroughly throughout, not just warmed on the surface. Use an oven or stovetop rather than a microwave when possible, as these methods provide more even heating. Even better, try eating cooked potatoes cold. Add them to salads where their resistant starch remains beneficial. Cold potato salad made with a vinegar-based dressing rather than mayonnaise can be both delicious and genuinely healthy. The resistant starch in cold potatoes actually supports healthy digestion and provides steady energy rather than spiking your blood sugar. Your pancreas functions best when your blood sugar remains steady throughout the day. Reheating potatoes in ways that cause rapid glucose spikes undermines that stability. For someone over 70, this hidden metabolic strain is exactly what your body doesn't need. Each time you reach for leftover potatoes to reheat, ask yourself whether that small convenience is worth the potential cost to your long-term health. More often than not, taking a few minutes to prepare something fresh or eating stored potatoes cold is the better choice. As we conclude, I want to emphasize something important. Growing older means that small daily habits increasingly determine the difference between maintaining good health and unknowingly undermining it. Reheating food might seem like an innocent shortcut, a simple matter of convenience in a busy life. But for seniors, it can carry consequences that extend far beyond an upset stomach. Your pancreas is one of your body's most sensitive and hardworking organs. It thrives on clean, fresh nourishment. But it suffers silently when repeatedly exposed to reheated foods that have undergone harmful chemical changes, released toxins, or fostered bacterial growth. The truth is that bodies at 60, 70, or 80 don't process stress, whether physical, chemical, or biological, the same way they once did. Every time you consume reheated oil, rice, spinach, chicken, or potatoes, you're asking your organs to work a little harder, to fight a little more, and to recover a little slower. But here's the encouraging news: the opposite is equally true. Each time you choose a freshly cooked meal, each time you properly store food and avoid unnecessary reheating, you give your body the support it needs to heal and stay strong. What matters most isn't perfection, it's awareness. When you understand what your body needs, you naturally begin making choices that serve your health and extend your vitality. So the next time you're about to microwave leftover chicken or refry yesterday's meal, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself whether this convenience is truly worth the silent cost to your body. Most of the time, the answer will guide you towards something fresher, simpler, and ultimately kinder to your health. Your body has worked tirelessly for you for decades. It deserves your respect, care, and patience now. Protecting your pancreas isn't about restriction or living in fear of food. It's about giving yourself the best possible chance at more energetic mornings, clearer thinking, and longer, healthier years ahead. Thank you for staying with me through both segments today. I hope you've learned something valuable that you can apply in your daily life. If this information has been helpful, please share it with someone you care about who might benefit from knowing these facts. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.